You might recall a few weeks ago I unboxed the Sony Xperia 5, which was a bit of a meme. Since then, I've been spending some time with the device, just getting to know it, and here's what I found. To set the scene, the Xperia 5 is a compact version of the Xperia 1, and it actually stays true to that principle. Apart from the dimensions and screen resolution, it is identical to the flagship phone. Same chip, same cameras, same RAM, and same storage size. With compact flagships, most companies follow the trend of taking off a camera lens, or slowing down the charge speeds, or reducing battery life. In this review, we will delve into 4 main aspects of the phone: the screen, the cameras, the performance, and how it fares in day-to-day use. Also, this phone belongs to my sister, who used to have a Huawei, so she'll be telling us about her experience of converting to Sony. It sounds like a religion. Anyway, the screen is a 6.1-inch Full HD OLED panel with around 449 pixels per inch. Whilst the numbers are okay, pretty standard for a flagship, the result is far more impressive. The contrast is on point and the colours are almost popping off the screen. More importantly, there's no notch or punch hole, just a seamless ultra-wide display. And we cannot progress without taking a few moments to really appreciate that aspect ratio. Ultra-wide content completely fills up the screen in such a satisfying way, it almost looks 3D, and I can safely say there is no smartphone which delivers a better viewing experience. Compared with a notched device, you can clearly tell the difference. There's black bars on the side, and the notch just makes things worse, so it's a complete mess. The Xperia is good news, especially for Bollywood lovers. All Bollywood movies and songs are shot in ultrawide, so you can see all your favourites the way they were meant to be seen. I have to mention that 16:9 content, such as most TV shows, doesn't really take advantage of all that space. It's not bad by any means, but your usual device gives you a slightly bigger display. Moving on to the cameras, and you've got your standard triple camera setup, a main wide-angle lens, an ultra-wide angle lens, and a 2x zoom telephoto lens. The main lens captures a high level of detail, and the dynamic range is spot on. The telephoto is quite sharp too, but has a tendency to struggle with extreme lighting conditions, but a little editing fixes that in an instant. However, turning on portrait mode adds a little bit of magic which makes a massive difference. The key advantage of the portrait mode here is that there is no automatic portrait setting. You have to choose how much background blur you want, and that's a very good thing. There are so many devices out there, mainly the likes of Huawei's and Xiaomi's, which use AI to select an automatic portrait setting, which is often far too aggressive. As we can see here, the amount of background blur is just unnatural and ruins what could have been a great portrait. Portrait shots are meant to mimic the background blur we see when we look at objects and people with our own eyes. It's not a competition of who can add the most blur. So well done Sony for being smart about this. The ultrawide is my favourite. The saturation is just breathtaking and it covers quite a large field of view. Plus it can handle extreme conditions unlike the telephoto, so it's the most consistent lens on the phone. However, I was disappointed with the distortion. Yes, you're bound to get distortion on an ultra-wide lens based on how it's shaped, but Sony promoted a feature on the Xperia 1 that would correct this distortion, and it worked very well. But I can't see any evidence of this on the Xperia 5, which is confusing because they both have the same camera lenses and the same chipset. Moving on to the video department, this is where the Xperia 5 really shines. Let's start with the video from the main camera app. However, the cherry on top lies in a separate app called Cinema Pro. This is designed for the people who want complete control over everything. There's options for the ISO, the white balance, the shutter speed, and a wide selection of filters to use. You can shoot in either 2K or 4K, and it's all done in 21:9 widescreen. Now that we have three very capable lenses, here's a little taste of what you could do with it. Performance-wise, we've got a Snapdragon 855 paired with 6 gigs of RAM, which can handle practically anything you throw at it. But today, I've decided to push it to the limit with one of the most demanding games on Gamecube emulators, Bionicle Heroes. Just for some context, last year's Snapdragon chip with Performance Mode Enable still gave some lag, so we'll see how much faster the 855 really is. Also, we'll be testing out Super Mario Bros. On a Wii emulator, because why not? With Bionicle Heroes, we consistently get a frame rate of around 30 FPS, very rarely dropping any lower than that. Given the black bars, you can comfortably use all the buttons without blocking the gameplay. 1080p shows noticeable improvements over the default game resolution, but it's not essential. If you want smoother performance, then feel free to drop it back down to the normal resolution. Moving on to Super Mario Bros, and it's a similar story. Overall performance is up to the mark, with some rare stutter in the audio. This is where 1080p feels a lot different to the native resolution, because not only is it a newer game, but it's also got many more vibrant colors throughout, so it really lets you get the most out of the OLED panel. As a daily driver, the Xperia 5 feels quite different to most flagships, in a good way. Because it's quite narrow, it's very comfortable to hold, even if it has slightly sharper edges than most. The tall display means you can fit a lot more information in than most other smartphones, especially when it comes through scrolling through social media, messaging, and web browsing. The operating system is very light indeed. Unlike Samsung and Huawei, Sony haven't put their own skin on top. Just a few Sony apps here and there, and their classic side sense feature, which gives you a quick menu by tapping the side. But that's about it. This means that the OS itself is very clean and light, which results in very smooth performance. For those of you who have a Huawei and are looking for an upgrade, my sister will tell you all about the experience. Over to you, Dee.
So I've been using the Xperia 5 now for about 2 months or so, and I changed from a Huawei P20. So one of the key differences that I found is the screen size. I was much more used to a slightly wider screen. This was quite thin, so it took me slightly a long time to get used to it, I think. But now that I am, and I've watched a few movies on it and a few TV shows, I definitely swear by the Xperia 5 for sure now. The sound quality, the visual quality is incredible. The vibration motor itself is very, very powerful, so the response is a lot sharper in terms of like just typing and when I'm watching a movie. So I think the whole experience is a lot more immersive. So I think I'll definitely be using my phone a lot more on my daily commutes to work, whenever those start again. And it will definitely make the hours I spend on a train go a lot faster, I think.
So it's a well-performing all-rounder, but for £600, there's tons of them to choose from. So why choose the Xperia 5? So if you are a commuter, a movie lover, an aspiring YouTuber, or just to some level very bored of every device looking exactly the same, then there's no better phone out there than the Xperia 5. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.